Hi, my name is Judy Tahachek, and this is going to be a presentation on how you can incorporate STEAM resources into your school library media program. I'll be explaining not only what STEAM is, but also how it's important to you and to your students, and I'll give some examples about integrating programs that can work in your library. So let's get started. First of all, we need to define what STEAM is. And if you're already in the education field, you probably have a pretty good idea. But for those of you who are not familiar, STEAM is an acronym. STEAM stands for science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. However, there is more to this acronym. In order for us to have a deeper understanding of just what we're dealing with, we need to go back to the original concept of what STEAM was derived from, STEM. So let's take a look at this YouTube clip from the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine. This organization explains just what STEM means to education and what today's educators want to do.
What is STEM? It's the acronym for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics, the disciplines that are vital for a thriving economy and a safe and healthy society. In kindergarten through 12th grade in the United States, most STEM teaching and learning focuses on science or mathematics. Comparatively little attention has been paid to the T, the products and systems that meet human needs, and E, the creative process used to design these things. And, for the most part, the four subjects have been taught in isolation. But new reform efforts, like the Next Generation Science Standards, are placing more emphasis on the connections between and among the STEM disciplines. To understand how this trend might affect teaching and learning in the future, we need to take a closer look at integrated STEM education.
So as you saw with STEM education, more educators are not only trying to get students involved with technology and engineering, but they are also trying to link these different ideas together in a process. The future of STEM education is all about integration, and there's no better place for this than in the school library. Remember, integration is key. We want to force our students to make these deeper connections and focus on the process of how they got to their answer rather than the answer itself. And don't worry, I didn't forget the most important thing. While we did focus on STEM, I didn't forget about the A. But some educators view the A like the letter that Hester Prynne wore in the Scarlet Letter. It's considered controversial, and there's much speculation as to whether or not the A or arts is needed or proves to be beneficial in education. That leads us to our updated acronym of STEAM. While most organizations still do not use the term STEAM and currently use the more outdated term STEM, the tides are slowly turning and the term STEAM is gaining ground. Perhaps the most concise and useful definition I've found of STEAM is from the website Education Closet. They state that STEAM is an educational approach to learning that uses science, technology, engineering, the arts, and mathematics as access points for guiding student inquiry, dialogue, and critical thinking. I think that this is a great definition because it not only includes all those different fields, but also what we're trying to do with them and how we're trying to make them more accessible to students. Education Closet also does a great job explaining the key components of STEAM, which include an integrated approach to learning, and this requires intentional connection between the standards that we strive for, the assessments that we give, and the lesson designs that we implement. Again, we don't just want to do one, we want to be able to connect all of these things together in order to have our students achieve most effectively. True STEAM experiences involve two or more of these standards from science, technology, engineering, math, and the arts, and they are to be taught and assessed in and throughout each other. Again, you can't just have one in order to be successful. You need to tell your students that in order to be the next Steve Jobs, they not only need engineering, but art. In order to solve that physics problem, they not only need technology, but they need math as well. The more collaboration you have, the more successful that your students will be. And also, over the past few weeks in class, key concepts that have been pointed out, collaboration, inquiry, and emphasis on process-based learning are at the heart of the STEAM approach. Lastly, and finally, utilizing and leveraging the arts is essential to authentic STEAM initiative. For again, while some people don't believe that art is a necessary component, in retrospect, it really is. Now listen to Damon Jones from STEAM America explain why STEAM is so important.
But let me tell you why STEAM education is important to you. It's important because it's important to the future of your child. STEAM is a collaborative, project-based educational model where children work together to creatively come up with solutions to problems. We give them an opportunity to think outside of four bubbles on the test. You give them the tools, and you allow them as the teacher to run and to grow and to explore the learning. So how is that important? Why is that important? Why do we need STEAM education?
Damon Jones of STEAM America brings up a really great question. As educators, why should we even care in the first place? Why should we care that the arts are being taught in conjunction with science, math, technology, and engineering? Why should we pay attention and why should we take notice that these things are working together in an inquiry-based curriculum? Why? To answer the big question, I think reporter Anna Feldman from Slate magazine said it best. In a 2015 article in which she advocates for art integration into the STEM framework, she states that the reason why you need it is that it's sparking students' imagination and helping these students innovate through hands-on projects. But perhaps most importantly, it's about applying creative thinking and design skills to these STEM projects so that students can imagine a variety of ways to use STEM skills into adulthood. Again, we are always creating lifelong learners. Art is a catalyst, and without it, students wouldn't be able to see problems in new ways, think creatively about solutions, and even have the courage to dream about things unheard of. The research that's out in the public sphere states that the earlier students are exposed to STEM concepts, the better they perform overall and in the future as adults. A particular article by Morgan, Farksam, Hillenmeyer, and Makauza, published this year, boldly proclaims that even at kindergarten age, students are severely lacking the knowledge and skills needed to excel at science. The achievement gap then continues throughout the end of middle school, and in this study, exposure is key and stressed. Important studies like this is why the federal administration not only wants to make STEM education a priority, but also provide funding for STEM projects, work together with museums, businesses, and institutions, and help girls and minorities find their footing in STEM career paths. This means that librarians are in a unique position to not only encourage growth in these areas, but make the resources accessible to all students and show them that these subjects are interesting and fun to learn. I think that going forward, school librarians should be embracing this opportunity and take on an active role with the STEAM framework. By developing their own STEAM programming, school librarians will be on the cutting edge of this issue, and they'll be demonstrating their versatility and necessity to their administrators. So I guess the other big question in the room, or the elephant I guess you could say, is how do we incorporate STEAM programming into our library? The answer to this question might be a little bit more complicated than you originally thought. While it's great to just go ahead and dive in and see what you can come up with regarding STEAM projects, you do need to take some things under consideration. Otherwise, you might just end up with slime on your head. Here are some tips for developing your own STEAM programs. First, always ask what your teachers need. Even though you might come across a really awesome project that involves glitter glue and fluorescent paint and involves astronomy and sounds really great to you, it might not be the activity that your teachers need. So definitely touch base with them, go to them first, ask what they're looking for. That way, when you collaborate with them, you can always go back to them and say, hey, I have this really great idea. What do you think of it? And you can incorporate some of your own unique programming in with their curriculum. And then just like everything else that we've been learning through the first half of this class, always start small. You don't want to start off too big. You don't want to run out of supplies really quickly. You don't want to run out of funding or money that you have allocated for any projects. Again, always start small. See what you're able to handle and then build yourself up from there. If it's successful, then you can always continue to develop um, more complex programs. And in conjunction with that, you also have to know your limitations. If you don't have a 3D printer or you're not able to purchase a 3D printer, then don't bother making a program that involves 3D printing. Again, you have to know your limitations. You have to know what you're able to afford in terms of your budget, what supplies you're able to get. If you're limited on a budget, then you have to be more creative with being thrifty and obtaining these materials to make the program a successful one. So again, keep that in mind as well. And then also, since we are librarians, we love to research, research, research. Um, you might come across a program that sounds really great, but just for some reason or another might not be able to work. But if you do a little bit of digging and use your own creativity, you might be able to work by swapping out a few materials or by applying it to this subject matter rather than the former. So again, it's always good to do your research, be a little bit more versed in what you're actually trying to accomplish, and then kind of taking the idea from there. And then last but not least, always consider working with outside organizations. Again, this is when collaboration is key. Especially since we live in such a great metropolitan area like Chicago, we have a lot of museums and also outreach centers at our disposal. We have the Adler Planetarium and the Field Museum and the Museum of Science and Industry. And some librarians or even teachers might not know that these institutions offer outreach programs. They're able to come to the school and you can incorporate a lesson that way, or you can even build off something that they've already created, making a little bit less work for you. So again, take that first step. Extend the olive branch out to them, explain to them what you're trying to do, and then see where they can go with that for you. All right, now finally we get to the good stuff. Here I'm going to run through a sample STEAM program that you can do at your own library. This one is specifically geared toward lower elementary school children. This is a game of Angry Birds, and so the objective here is to enjoy the typical fun that comes with Angry Birds, but also learning about physics, how projectiles work, and also gravity. And then in terms of engineering, how students are able to build up their towers and be creative as well while making crazy structures. So the materials that you'll be needing are lots and lots of boxes, all shapes and sizes. So I think this librarian in particular was collecting them for quite a while. Paint is optional if you want to get a little bit more creative and fun and use color in there as well. And basically what the librarian did was she had the children go into small groups and then they would go ahead and build towers of any shape and size they want. And then once they were satisfied with their structures, then they were able to use Angry Bird pillows to knock them down. And then here you can see the students enjoying themselves in the pictures here. On the left-hand side, the students tried to reenact as accurately as possible the Angry Birds process where they used a slingshot as counterforce to create more momentum for the birds. And the stacks are pretty interesting as well. But then as you can see on the right-hand side, it ended up being a little bit chaotic toward the end. So these are my references that I used in my presentation. I definitely did not have enough time to include everything that I wanted to in the presentation, but for my electronic resource, I did create a Symbaloo, and so that has not only links to blog posts and Pinterest boards and everything that has to do with STEAM programming, but it has articles in there and a lot of things dealing with the educational framework as well. So I hope you enjoy it. Thank you for listening. Bye.